Hello everyone and welcome to Report World News Broadcasting with me, Davron Jumaev. Uzbekistan and UAE have agreed to continue joint work in improving the efficiency of the public administration system and training qualified specialists, organizing the activities of the Office of the Accelerator of Socio-Economic Reforms as Uzbek President Shavkat Mirziyoyev hosted UAE delegation headed by Minister of Government Affairs Muhammad bin Abdullah Al-Gargawi on June 15. The parties have reached an agreement on the adoption of a joint roadmap aimed at the broad implementation of the best practices of the Emirates in the field of public administration, the formation of a long-term program of transformation and the transition to an innovative path of development. Muhammad Al-Gargawi conveyed greetings and best wishes to the Uzbek leader on behalf of the President of the United Arab Emirates, Sheikh Khalifa Al Nahyan, Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, Deputy Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, Sheikh Mohammed Al Nahyan, and the Prime Minister of the country, Emir of Dubai, Sheikh Mohammed Al Maktoum. He expressed his sincere gratitude for the full assistance to the activities of Emirati investors in the country, for the support and participation of Uzbekistan in the Dubai Expo 2021. The Emirati side also presented a new project proposal providing for the creation of a zone of environmental innovations and technologies in the RLC region. Uzbekistan's eastern Fergana region has delivered $246,000 worth of cherries to South Korea. The cargo, weighing 52.2 kg, took off from Fergana International Airport to Incheon on June 15. Uzbekistan's Transport Ministry said that the Fergana Airport has special storage rooms and special vehicles for storing and unloading perishable products, which allows keeping the high quality of agricultural products. A bill aimed at creating the most favorable business environment at the securities and joint stock companies market was under scrutiny at a regular session of Uzbek MPs on Tuesday. The document provides for the elimination of those norms that do not meet the current conditions of development, the liberalization of the activities of commercial organizations, and also expands the opportunities for obtaining income from securities. The deputies have agreed to introduce the new foreign nominee holder concept, that is, a foreign organization on behalf of the owner of the securities or a person authorized by him will keep records of the securities and confirm the rights to them in the absence of the owner of the securities. The introduction of this concept gives foreign investors additional guarantees of the safety of their assets. MPs noted that the adoption of this bill would promote the integration of the capital market with the international accounting system, creating a positive image of the country. In particular, the level of confidence in the market from local and foreign investors would also increase. Uzbek MPs aim to improve the legal protection of intellectual property objects. A corresponding bill was on the agenda of discussions on Tuesday. The draft includes the introduction of accelerated expertise in the process of state registration of intellectual property, a significant reduction of time for its registration, as well as issues of compensation for damage in the field of copyright and related rights. It also introduced a provision to increase the term of copyright protection after the death of the author from 50 to 70 years. According to deputies, this would ensure the protection of the author's property rights during the life of his two generations. According to them, the adoption of this bill will facilitate the registration of trademarks. At the same time, the law encourages the introduction of developments in production, attracting investment, expanding the range of products and services provided. After heated discussions, the bill was adopted by the deputies. The joint WHO United States Agency for International Development project improved prevention, detection and treatment of drug-resistant tuberculosis in Central Asia is technically assisting Uzbekistan's Ministry of Health and National Tuberculosis Program to implement the latest WHO recommendations on the clinical and programmatic management of DRTB. Over the last few years, WHO has issued several publications with recommendations on the diagnosis, treatment and prevention of DRTB, and many other important recommendations on case management, WHO said in a statement on Tuesday. A series of training sessions on the programmatic management of DRTB for regional TB specialists in Uzbekistan was organized between February and May 2021. These sessions aim to improve the effectiveness of approach to treating TB patients and increase positive outcomes of DRTB treatment in Uzbekistan. Asian Cycling Confederation is planning to organize a professional cycling team in Uzbekistan. This was unveiled during the visit of the institution's president Sheikh Osama Ahmad Al-Shafar. The agenda of his visit comprised of talks on strengthening the international relations of the ACC with the Cycling Federation of Uzbekistan. The negotiations ended with signing the Memorandum of Understanding between the Cypro Group and the Italian company RCS Sports and Events.
Early in the morning of June 15th, the Cycling Federation of Uzbekistan held a cycling event with the participation of Asian Cycling Confederation's president, the heads of ministries and agencies, entrepreneurs, artists, members of the cycling community of Uzbekistan, athletes and fans of this sport.
Happy to be today here at the parade of Uzbekistan Cycling Federation. So we see a big number of people. Our great thanks to Her Excellency Tanzila for the full support that they've been giving, all the young riders here. So today, this is the future of cycling of Uzbekistan. And as you see here, our great brother Kadam from Management Committee of Asian Cycling Confederation to be with us today here, and numbers of ministers. So it shows that the support of cycling and the future of cycling in Uzbekistan. I wish everybody good health, success, and we need the sport to grow on a right level. So this is what we are seeing here now in Uzbekistan. Sport is, it's good for health. Cycling, it's nice, and we'll work together with our brother Kadam to make Uzbekistan and Tashkent especially a cycle label city.
How often do you cycling yourself?
I do 4 times a week. Yeah, so four times a week. Yeah, thank you.
The weather is beautiful, so I think it will be a wonderful celebration of the sport today. I always try to take a ride or walk in my free time. Besides Tashkent, I take my bike to other regions when possible. We have beautiful mountains, desert areas, and it's a pleasure to ride around mountains and beautiful dunes. I recommend it to everyone. I really want cycling to become more popular around the city. When we travel abroad, I rent a bicycle. European capitals have a very good infrastructure. It's great to ride around the city because you can view better than you can in a car, and it's easier to explore the city. I think it's a very good way to spend time in a useful and interesting way. I also think it will help in the future development of infrastructure for cycling in our city. The development of cycling in our country is a very important task. Firstly, it is a healthy lifestyle. And secondly, if we slowly introduce a culture of cycling, the city would have better atmosphere. If the number of bike paths increases, people passing on bicycles, then there will be much less cars on the streets. Therefore, when I was invited to today's event, I immediately agreed without hesitation. Maybe we will motivate someone to get on a bike.
The mood was great and the weather was nice. We had fun. It was not difficult at all. Overall, it was a pleasant ride.
What can I say? Amazing. I think it was a great ride. And for me especially, and I think for the president of ACC, that we are all in cycling, full immersion in cycling. No, it is great. Thank you for making us feeling home. It is impressive and outstanding how you see the enthusiasm of people to gather early in the morning.
Osama Al-Shafar's agenda started off with a discussion of potential cycling projects in Uzbekistan with the Uzbek Tourism and Sports Minister Aziz Abduhakimov and representatives of the Cycling Federation of Uzbekistan.
In 2025, we are going to organize Asian Youth Game in Tashkent. So we have a very ambitious plan to build also cycling arena in Tashkent, and now we are developing the project, and if it will be any support from your side to give us some recommendations, some advices, and we are going to create in Tashkent one of the most advanced cycling arena. We have general concept, of course, like Olympic Village. It will be located near of new airport. It's one of the best location in Tashkent, and and also near of this Olympic Village. We already started another big project to create a big national park, presidential park.
Today with us in this meeting, we discussed like three typical points that to support the cycling in Uzbekistan. One of the topics that we need to come up with a team that present the country and races all over the world. So this is one more important points that we have to have a team that present and then races all over the world. Second point is to have, for example, a tour that people can see it all over the world. So you organized by one of the biggest tours that you can see it. This is two things. The third part are if there is like to have like a satellite center. Satellite center. When you have a satellite center, people will visit you all over the world to come and camp in your beautiful country. Your country is beautiful, so you need to explore that with the cycling. Cycling is the game that shows everything, because from say point 1 to point 2, 200 kilometer, and the 200 kilometer you can see it. You can see the beautiful country, like whatever happens in all over the world.
The next point was the National Olympic Committee of Uzbekistan, where the guests met with the president of the institution, Rustam Shah Abdurrahmanov. The head of the committee spoke about the success of Uzbekistan in a number of sports. It was noted that the great hope is placed on two cyclists who will defend the honor of Uzbekistan at the upcoming Olympic Games in Tokyo. Osama Al-Shafar expressed his gratitude for the National Olympic Committee's assistance in the development of cycling.
Было затронуто очень много вопросов.
Variety of questions about the development of cycling were discussed, both in our country and at the international arena. The question regarding the construction of a new bicycle lane was discussed. Also, there were plans to build a new cycling center. Mr. Osama outlined three areas that he would like to discuss with us. The first is the performance of our professional team at international tournaments and international cycling in Uzbekistan. The third is the possibility of building a training center for specialists.
In the afternoon, Osama Al-Shafar met with the chair of Senate and the Uzbekistan Cycling Federation, Tanzila Narbayeva. She thanked him for his comprehensive support and funding of the cycling movement in Uzbekistan. The construction of a BMX arena in Gaza is due to be completed by the 30th anniversary of Uzbekistan's independence. We invite you to take part in this important event for us, Narbayeva said. When I saw the projects, I was pleasantly surprised and proud of the team. Their success is my success, because Uzbekistan is my second home. Everyone here is like brothers and sisters to me, Osama Al-Shafar concluded. During the visit of the delegation, a memorandum of understanding was signed between the Sairpur Group and the Italian company RCS Sports and Events. The document implies joint efforts in organizing events and cycling tournaments in Uzbekistan, developing marketing strategies, organizing visits of tournament stars of such magnitude as the Giro d'Italia. Osama Ahmad Al-Shafar commented on Uzbekistan's potential in competing on an international level.
For sure, yes. To compete, you're going to compete all around the UCI calendar, which is either if it's 2.2 HC or 2.1 HC or World Tour HC. Like if you compete in any of these calendars, so always like you are, presenting your country. So everybody's gonna see like Uzbekistan, and that's a very good advertising for your home country and for your homeland. This is very important, especially, for example, people who wants to, for example, advertise. So they will sponsor from you, and then you put the names. It depends on the body of the jersey. So it's a very good advertising for your home country and then for the country that's supporting you.
Profesyonel komanda
To date, the team has been registered with the Ministry of Justice. The relevant resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers on its activities was adopted. We have developed a team strategy with foreign specialists. The main base will be in Slovenia, and we're holding talks with representatives of this country. The preliminary start date is 2022.
I believe the first big step would be to bring an international event here in Uzbekistan, a professional cycling race. I know there has already been the very successful edition of the Asian Cycling Games in 2017, and I think if we keep building this legacy with cycling, bringing why not an Uzbekistan tour, professional 4 days race, which allow to show the beauty of the country worldwide and to attract international teams, this will be the first step.
Uzbekistan has failed to advance to the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, as the national team suffered a loss to the Saudi team in the qualifying match on Tuesday. The match of the Asian qualifying tournament, held on the night of June 16 in Riyadh, ended with a score of 3-0. Midfielder Salman Al-Faraj made a double scored in the 25th and 33rd minutes of the first half. In the second half of the match, midfielder Ali Al-Hassan scored the third goal.
Israel launched airstrikes in Gaza on Wednesday in response to incendiary balloons from the Palestinian territory. This flare-up is a first test for Israel's new government after a tentative ceasefire stopped 11 days of cross-border fighting last month. The Israeli military said its aircraft attacked armed Hamas compounds in Gaza in response to their balloons, which the fire brigade reported caused 20 blazes in open fields and communities near the border. A Hamas spokesman, confirming the Israeli attacks, said Palestinians would continue to pursue their, quote, brave resistance and defend their rights and sacred sites in Jerusalem. Only hours before the strikes, there was an Israeli nationalist march in East Jerusalem that drew threats from Hamas, the ruling militant group in Gaza. Israel, which annexed East Jerusalem after a 1967 war, regards all of Jerusalem as its capital. However, Palestinians want East Jerusalem to be the capital of a future state that would include Gaza and the West Bank. Thousands of flag-waving Israelis congregated around the Damascus Gate in Jerusalem's Old City. Israel has recently beefed up its Iron Dome anti-missile system in anticipation of possible rocket attacks from Gaza. But as marchers began to disperse after nightfall, there was still no sign of rocket fire. An earlier march in May was diverted away from the Damascus Gate. However, that wasn't enough to discourage Hamas from firing rockets toward Jerusalem, an action that seemingly sparked last month's violence.
Joe Biden met with EU leaders in Brussels on Tuesday, and the US president had a big deal to show for it. The US and EU have agreed a truce in their near 17-year dispute over subsidies to Airbus and Boeing. Biden called it a major breakthrough. Since 2004, the two sides have been battling in parallel cases at the World Trade Organization. Both argue that the other side is providing unfair support to their own aerospace champion. Back in March, Washington and Brussels agreed to suspend for 4 months tariffs on $11.5 billion in goods. The levies had hit everything from EU cheese and wine to US tobacco and spirits. Now the pair have agreed to suspend the tariffs for 5 years, while still working on an overarching agreement. European Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen hailed the deal.
Agreement we have found now really opens a new chapter in our relationship, because we move from litigation to cooperation on aircraft, and that after almost 20 years of disputes.
US Trade Representative Catherine Tai said the two sides had agreed to clear statements on what support could be given to airliner makers. And she said they would now both be watching Beijing instead.
The deal on large civil aircraft includes a commitment for concrete joint collaboration to confront the threat from China's ambitions to build an aircraft sector on non-market practices.
The pair still have to resolve a Trump-era dispute over US tariffs on EU steel and other metals, which are backed by many US producers. Even so, Brussels is pushing what it calls a positive agenda on trade with Washington, and says the two can work together to drive WTO reforms. The sun is coming out, lockdowns are easing, and people are ready to spend money on clothes again. Net sales at H&M grew 62% on the year over its second quarter, hitting almost $5.6 billion. Though sales are still down on pre-crisis levels, the company says it is enjoying a strong recovery as stores reopen. By mid-June, 180 of its branches were temporarily shut, down from 1,300 at the start of March and around 4,000 at the height of the crisis. The world's second biggest clothing retailer said web sales were also doing well, even as shops come back to life. It's a similar story over at online-only rival Boohoo. The UK-based retailer said its sales jumped 32% over the latest quarter, with some markets much stronger. Sales surged by 157% in the US. Boohoo also benefited from the integration of newly acquired brands, including Debenhams. A new online version of the defunct department store is now up and running. Tuesday's numbers add to signs of a recovery for clothing retailers. Recent weeks have seen improving numbers from names including Next and Zara owner Inditex.
Jaguar Land Rover is shifting up a gear with its zero-emission goals. It's to begin tests later this year on a hydrogen fuel cell prototype model, and it will be based on its iconic Land Rover Defender vehicle. Owned by India's Tata Motors, JLR earlier this year said that its luxury Jaguar brand would be entirely electric by 2025, and the more rugged Land Rover brand will launch 6 pure electric models over the next 5 years. Most of the auto industry is focusing on developing battery electric cars to meet the tightening emission standards in Europe and China. But JLR is one of a small number of car makers that sees possibilities for the mass adoption of hydrogen fuel cells. They emit only water as they produce electricity. Hydrogen fuel cells also provide greater range than battery electric cars. But there is little fueling infrastructure currently in place to support mass adoption of the technology. That's not stopping others working on it, though. German carmaker BMW plans a limited series hydrogen fuel cell model SUV in 2022, while Japanese carmakers Toyota and Honda, as well as South Korea's Hyundai, are also developing fuel cell models.
These were the top stories for today. Stay safe and goodbye.